Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Newark and Sherwood series, a district of 84 civil parishes right in the centre of Nottinghamshire. Come with me as we delve into one of them. Welcome back to Newark and Sherwood, everybody. Now today we're exploring a village which is spelt differently to how it's pronounced. It's spelt A-V-E-R-H-A-M, which you might think is Averam or Averham, but it's not. The locals out here call this place Airham. This Newark and Sherwood video is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Airham is a tiny village lying just off the A617 road between Newark and Southwell. It's got a few interesting things about it, this one, the most obvious being its name. Yes, it really is Airham. The pronunciation is likely a hangover from medieval times. The name was first recorded as Egrum, which in later years became Averham, and now of course it's spelt as Averam. The oldest part of the village was situated by a small stream, the part of Airham which is out towards the impressive St Michael and All Angels Church. Airham is now centred around Staythorpe Road, a former coaching route no less, to Southwell. The largest and most important family here were the Suttons, and they're responsible for how a lot of the village feels, looks and operates today. In the 17th century, Robert Sutton lived in a large manor house here. During the Civil War, Newark was surrendered to the parliamentarians, and Sutton, being a royalist, had his house burned to the ground. The remains of it and its moat can still be seen on Church Lane. Airham has a unique private theatre, which was originally made of wood. We'll be catching that for sure. It's also got a railway viaduct and a weir on the River Trent, the latter of which has some interesting history to say the least. There's more than you think in this tiny slice of Nottinghamshire, so let's go and check it out. Our journey around Airham begins on Staythorpe Road, which now looks to the untrained eye like a quiet village street. In times past, this was the main coaching route between Newark and Southwell. As such, there were coaching inns along here. Airham hasn't retained any, so there are no pubs here now. There are no coaches either, but you do get the odd bus. It's service number 28, which serves the village. And as if by magic, a number 28 bus went past as well on its way to Mansfield. That'll head through the neighbouring hamlet of Staythorpe too, which together with Kelham and Airham forms one parish council. So this main walk around Airham will end at this place, the Robin Hood Theatre. There's an interesting backstory to that. It's down that road to the right, that's Church Lane. We've still got a bit more of the village to see first though. The theatre is where it was supposed to end, but I went a bit further. Before we get that far though, let's have a look up Pinfold Lane. Airham used to have a pinfold, but the site of it has now been built upon. There's a bit of infilling here and there, but in general, new developments have been slow out here. Occupations here are very varied, and they include workers at the nearby Staythorpe power station. After walking through a small snicket linking Pinfold Lane to the Close, we see the A617 which bypasses the village. This road connects Newark to Sutton in Ashfield, and it also bypasses Mansfield. Okay, so the next major landmark is the school, which I believe is all boarded up and it's not used anymore. That's interesting. We don't usually see that with a school, do we? It's just round this corner. We'll get to the school after Airham receives its TVI card. The school is not the first that Airham has ever had either. Church Lane once had a dame school where girls were taught needlework. And this school is no longer in use either. Technically still open, there were just 23 pupils on roll here in 2020. By law, Nottinghamshire County Council can't close a school without proper consultation. The school is named Manners Sutton after the family I spoke about in the introduction. The Sutton family were a big deal in these parts. In the 16th century, the Sutton family were the local squires. Sutton would later become Manners Sutton. Keep that name in mind for later when we visit a local landmark. Most of Airham's cottages have similar roofs and chimneys and were probably built by the Sutton estate. We've now rounded the corner onto Church Lane and we come across a defibrillator next. Many of Airham's oldest cottages are situated on Church Lane, along with the old communal bake oven. So I think the last time I was out this early in the morning would have been when I was in Burnley, when I had the car break down on me. I'm out here this early for a different reason today, because I'm actually on the radio. You may have heard me a few weeks ago on Radio Nottingham. So yeah, time to go and see this theatre. At the end of Church Lane, the road forks. If you take the left-hand fork, you'll find yourself looking at the old rectory. In the grounds of the rectory is Airham's most famed landmark, a theatre. This is the Robin Hood Theatre, designed by Reverend Joseph Cyril Walker and built in 1913 by the village carpenter Robert Lee. Its original name was the Robin Hood Opera House. It can seat 150 people. It's been closed and reopened a few times in its life, and in 2014 the theatre group, which had been performing in schools and village halls, announced they'd raised more than £50,000 towards a renovation. Contributors included some star names like Ian McKellen, Judi Dench and Sylvia Sims. Its youth section performs regularly in the Nottingham and Nottinghamshire Drama Association Festival. And not forgetting where this is located, the rectory towers above the theatre. This was built in 1839 and amongst other things it served as a nursing home for the elderly. It's an impressive building. That's something we don't see every day, isn't it? A theatre, the Robin Hood Theatre. That's quite an interesting landmark. This next thing though is something we see all the time. It's a church. The Church of St Michael and All Angels is situated by the River Trent. It was originally a wooden building, which was then replaced by the current stone structure. It's had some later additions too. It has Norman herringbone stones on one side, and the porch, which was attached in about 1500, sports the initials of Thomas Sutton, who caused it to be built. There's got to be a tale to that, surely. This you'll find as you approach the church. It reads, "Daffodil bulbs were planted here in memory of Tony Snell of Staythorpe, who was instrumental in the restoration of this footpath in 1994. That's a nice touch, isn't it? We can get a better view of the church by taking a footpath over a small stream which runs into the Trent. This is Rundle Dyke, which has a bit of a backstory of its own. We'll get to that in a bit. The church tower has 6 bells and there are 2 Sutton monuments in the chancel. In 1984 they were vandalised but have since been repaired. Speaking of damage, the altar was accidentally burned in 1978. Once again, we're seeing the mighty River Trent. You must be sick of seeing this river by now. We've seen this in a load of places already, not just in Newark but also in Bassetlaw and also in West Lindsey as well, and in North Lincolnshire. It's a long old river, the 3rd longest in the country. We're going to follow this river now towards a weir, which is important to Airham, and there's also a viaduct to go under as well. Let's go. The footpath continues down the western bank of the Trent. We're heading for a railway line next. Fun fact for you, Airham also has a small airstrip by the banks of the Trent named Rectory Farm Airfield. This then is the Airham Viaduct, which carries the Nottingham to Lincoln railway line across the River Trent. The deck is riveted and therefore of a much earlier date than the piers, which are constructed of steel girders. There's a plate upon it which states that it was made and erected by Handyside, Derby and London, and the steelmakers were Alfred Hickman Limited Bilston and South Durham Steel Co. The latter did not come into being until 1898, so the bridge deck probably dates from around 1900. Once through the viaduct, Staythorpe Power Station can be seen in the distance. Before we get that far though, we're treated to some more views over the Trent. If you continued walking along the riverbank, you'd eventually see Farndon on the other side. We're looking though for a weir. Right, so we're here at Airham Weir, which is just behind these trees. Now I don't know how close I can get to this. You can certainly hear it if you can't see it. This is quite important to Airham's existence, and I'll explain why in the next couple of shots. Airham Weir is perhaps the one landmark that defines more than any other Airham's past. The weir only exists thanks to the Sutton family, and the reason why centres on Rundle Dyke. In 1594, Rundle Dyke, then a small brook, was insufficient for the Suttons' needs, so a cut was made from the River Trent near Farndon to where the brook passes the church. Now that was all well and good, apart from the powerful current it would create in the river. It was so strong that the millers and inhabitants of Newark prosecuted the Suttons for taking their water. The result was a court order, which instructed them to build this weir and maintain it. The cut rejoins the river to the west of Winthorpe, meaning to Airham's east is a large river island. Right, it's almost time to bring the Airham episode to a close, which means you guys need today's picture bit. So here at the weir is where the parish boundary is between Airham and Staythorpe. What a lovely little place, and I certainly could not have expected to see something like that this morning. I always do a little bit of research before I come to these places. I knew Airham had a weir, but I didn't expect it to be that beautiful. And the village is just stunning as well. It's got certainly got some things that I didn't expect to see. What about that theatre, eh? What about that? We don't see that every day. Time for me to move on to my next one here in Newark and Sherwood. I don't need to go very far, because if I turn the camera around, I'm just walking over the parish boundary, down this footpath and in to Staythorpe, which is quite small, but it does have something very, very large, which I'm going to walk right past. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot. This has been the Parish of Airham, and I'm out.